Welcome to another episode of the Savage Angel podcast. I'm Angela Giles. I have the lovely Holly Perry with me today. She's amazing. And before we dive into our conversation, I would love for you to tell a little bit about yourself, Holly.
Thank you, Angela. Holly Perry. I am co-owner, co-founder of Great Vista Financial, Great Vista Education Technology. And I am just so glad to be here. So glad to be a part of this book. I'm so excited about how everything has turned out. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Holly. And I'm really excited to bring Holly onto this episode of The Savage Angel because we were talking beforehand and I got to know her a little bit as we were going through this process of writing this incredible anthology. She wrote a chapter in it. What was the name of the book, Holly? Do you mind sharing with our listeners?
Yeah, it was Women of Wealth, Proverbs Legacy of, grace and grit.
Oh my gosh. And that's the thing. And that's the thing. It's the grace and the grit and the women like Holly and the other amazing women that were part of this book truly, like, they have huge hearts. They have servant hearts. I loved every single one of them. And I just thought, it was so interesting. I hadn't even thought of interviewing them on my podcast, but as I started reading through the chapters, I'm like, I need to have these women show up even bigger. I need to take my audience and I need to shout these women out and what they've accomplished, the things that they have gone through. So, Holly, what was the chapter called, just for the audience sake, what was the title and what did you write about inside of this anthology?
So mine is chapter 9, Designed by Destiny.
Okay, so what does that look like? What does that mean to you? I would love to hear.
So my whole life has pretty much been, I guess, divine intervention. And I have usually followed my spirit that's told me, hey, this is kind of where you need to go. I'm very intuitive through the Holy Spirit. And I've read Proverbs. This book intrigued me because I used to read Proverbs. And that was my thing. I would read Proverbs every day for 2 years, a
Wow.
chapter of Proverbs every day for 2 years. That changed my life. It completely changed my life. And so when this book came around, I was like, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect for me and what I've done and how Proverbs changed my life.
So you wrote about how Proverbs like changed your life literally inside this chapter.
Yes, I told my story, and that kind of goes with how Proverbs changed my life. I told my story of I started out as a medical social worker. And my gosh, I did that for 15 years. I worked in a nursing. I actually started out in a pharmacy. Then I went to a homeless clinic. Then I went to a nursing home. And from there, I did discharge planning at a hospital. And a turning point in my life was when I was told that I needed to go into a room with a physician and tell this family that had a 40-year-old daughter that she wasn't going to live, and give them the diagnosis and this crushing news. And I was like, I don't know that I can do this. And I did it. And I said, something's got to change. So at that point, I had been feeling led to go into the insurance industry. And that was just kind of God going, it's time. It's time to do it. And I had a friend who got me into this business. And it was just absolutely perfect timing for me to do that. And to add to it, I go into my father sold insurance back in the 80s. I could quote the rule of 72 in fourth grade. And so here I was, my dad had sold insurance along with being a truck driver. He did both. And when he heard I was going into insurance, he goes, I want nothing more than for you to make this work. And I took my test in May of 2012. And he passed away on June 6, 2012. And the day he passed away, my license came in the mail.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. It's really amazing. So, I just think about your story that you're sharing. I totally get the divine intervention thing. So I have this really weird thing. And my sisters, so I have 2 sisters and a brother. And 2 of us have this thing that happens to us. And I don't talk about it a lot, but I will in this case. it's like when we're in a car driving and or like if I'm on an airplane and I feel something pushing my seat. I kid you not, it's like so, like, think about when you're in an airplane and, like, the kid that's sitting in the seat behind you starts kicking. Well, how many times does that happen to me? A million, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, what are you trying to tell me?" It's almost like I call 'em my guardian angels are trying to talk to me, so I literally will have a conversation. I'm like, "Okay, you've got my attention. What is the thing that I need to know? What do I need to do?" And I just sit, and I keep driving, I'm just waiting for the response. Sometimes it comes in, sometimes it's randomly a day later or a week later, but I know, like, I kid you not, it's like an airplane. It's me driving in the passenger driving or in the passenger seat in the front. That's when it happens. It's happened to me my whole life and a lot when I was in college. It's crazy, right? And the way that I always have thought of divine intervention, because my brain is like ADHD, like all over the map, constantly 24/7 unless
Mine
I'm
too.
sleeping. Yeah, so you get it. But what I noticed the difference is when I know that it's from God, is that something will just literally pop in my head and I say it like just like that. I don't even think of it. It just pops in and my mouth opens. Sometimes it's not the people don't love it, right? But I'm like, those are my divine download, right? Like your divine destiny. It's
Absolutely.
it's really cool. So when you like actually, we put this anthology together, all these incredible women wrote their chapters, and then you actually got a physical copy in the mail. How did that feel when you first like set with that and you touched it?
It made me feel like I really accomplished something. And I had been wanting to write a story for or book for a long time, but I just didn't feel like I really had a whole lot to say. I thought, why do women want to hear my story? I don't have this tragic story. I don't have some of the wow that a lot of women have. The story is pretty benign, but I feel like God goes, no, no, I'm giving you this story. You need to tell it because there's somebody out there that needs it. And you don't have to have a something traumatic happen to you to be able to tell a story. You just got to let God lead like you were talking about. And I think I was very proud when that happened. And also, again, I have to give him the glory because I couldn't have done it on my own.
I mean, please, I totally agree with that. So, you were talking about like, well, you were like, my story is pretty benign. I haven't had anything traumatic. What would you say to another woman that was like had a story? Maybe she had even written a book, her own book, and it just was sitting there on the shelf, like not published. What would you say to her?
Take the step, do it. Do it. I mean, it is one of the best things that I've done. I've had an opportunity to do a chapter in a book previous,
Mhm.
but it didn't feel right. The timing wasn't quite right. But I met Hollywood's Gray and we met in September. Again, I firmly believe that is divine intervention. And I met her and she said, "Hey, I'm doing this book." I'm like, okay, I didn't think much of it. And I was like, "What is it?" And she goes, "It's Proverbs." I'm like, okay, you have my attention. Okay, God, you've got my attention. And I was told, I read a book one time, and I'm trying to remember the name of the book that I read it in, but literally the second page said, if you read a chapter of Proverbs a day for 2 years, you'll be smarter than most of your bosses. If you read a chapter a day for 5 years, you'll be a multimillionaire.
Wow. Say that last line again, the 5-year line. Say that again. That's pretty impressive.
So that if you read a chapter of Proverbs a day, every day for 5 years, you will be a multimillionaire.
Pretty profound.
And if you think about it, it comes from the wisdom of Solomon. Proverbs was written by Solomon, who was the wisest man who ever lived, who was also the wealthiest man who ever lived. It's just good living. It's right living.
Well, it's interesting you say that good and right living. For me, one of the things that I love because obviously Galit Ventura Rosen and I own the Everyday Woman publishing brand, and we publish women's books. And having helped, I don't even know, 400 plus authors now write books or be part of anthologies, the living right is so important. Having common sense, is so important now more than ever. I tell my kids, I'm like, the way that I was raised and the way I raised you, everything is flipped upside down now. Like what I thought 1 plus 1 equals 2, now it's like 1 plus 1.3 equals 2. Like it's just like crazy. And how cool is it to like actually share your story and have it make sense to other people, but also, share that experience with ultimately thousands and thousands of people. Because I'm telling you, when someone reads a chapter, I'll share an example with you. So, a few of our anthologies back, we had someone that worked at City Corporation. I think it's in Florida, and they used our anthology at the time to be part of they had like an empowerment women's club. I don't know if club is the right word, but something. They used our book and had women read it. And people loved it. And I think they did it with our second one, the one after that too. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is imagine writing a chapter in that was a really good story, like really giving empowerment and hope and grace and all the things to all these women out there that need it in the world, and having other women read it and going, aha, that touched me so much, that changed my life. Let me tell someone else about it, or let the changes in my life make these ripple effects and impact more people. Like that's what I'm talking about. To me, that's right. Like you said, it's right living. So if you're a woman, um, and you're nervous about getting your story out there, what would you tell them, Holly? Like, I know we talked about this, but I really want to circle back around because I think there's so much more to it.
Absolutely. Be courageous because it does take some guts to write it. Some areas that you look at writing your story may be painful, but it's also very healing to write it.
Right.
Um, it takes the grit to write it. But once you do it, that feeling is just amazing. I mean, it feels so good to know that you've accomplished something that it may or may not, which it probably most likely will, help other women, but it helps yourself. It helps you heal your heart. Just like with my father passing and stuff, that was very helpful for me to write that down and go, you know what? Somebody else may be going through that too. But get it out there, get your story out there, and trust that it will be used for good, that your story can be used. I can only reach so many people, but a book can reach thousands of people.
Exactly. I remember my very first book that I wrote, and I grew up in a religious cult. And when I'm talking cult, like we're talking FBI documentary on it. 41% of our ministers were unsafe. You can infer what that means. It was really bad. And I wrote my book, I think it was 2015, 16, somewhere around there. And I talked about growing up in that cult. I didn't go into the stuff that the FBI has, gone into, and a documentary was done on it. But I talked about it, and I can tell you it was a solo book, how healing that was for me. But I will also tell you that, I talked about it a little bit as it relates to my family, and I'm the oldest girl, and I have some younger siblings, and they were raised in that religion, but in a different way because my parents had loosened up a little bit. So the way that I saw my world, going from a normal world, being a 7-year-old going from a normal world to this completely horrible religion, like it shook me. They didn't have that experience. They grew up in it, but it was more laid back by the time they rolled around, or my parents were more laid back. And I actually had one of them say something to me about it. Well, this didn't happen and that didn't happen. I'm like, first of all, you weren't alive. And second of all, this is my story. This is how I perceived it. And this is what I went through. Right. I don't think that this person liked the fact that I put it out there, but it was so healing for me. Now I can freely talk about the experience that I went through. Right. And
Yeah.
that was
Wow.
traumatic. I'm actually the queen of traumatic, like, events that happened to me. But I firmly believe I'm so strong that I go through them and I teach and I share them with other people. So, Holly, I think your point earlier in our conversation about having feeling like your story was benign compared to other people, it doesn't matter because everybody has a life story. Everybody can learn from someone else. And my philosophy is if just one person found hope in someone else's story or even a portion of someone's, even if it's just one sentence, it's worth the time, it's worth the healing. So one last question for you. How did you feel being part of the Everyday Woman publishing community with the other women as you came together and wrote this book?
I got to know several of the women and they're amazing. Their stories are amazing. It's the community. It is a knit community. I'm forever with that community because I'm published in that book with them and I love it. I love feeling a part of something that's bigger than myself. And I want other women, especially young women, to accomplish that. I have a daughter and I love her more than anything, who is jumping out into entrepreneurial world. And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs with my family. And, I want to teach them, her and her friends, that, be a part of something bigger than yourself. Always, always be a part of something bigger than yourself. Because again, it can reach more people than just you on your own.
100%. So I love the fact that you enjoyed it and that you felt like you got to be part of a community, and you just never know that where that will take you. We actually have a few women that were part of another anthology and they actually ended up working together. We've had women that have gotten speaking engagements, gotten clients, done all kinds of things. I mean, it's just sort of this ripple effect out there. So I am so glad, Holly, that you were able to come on and we could have this conversation today. Is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share to the women that are watching this?
Yeah, again, don't be afraid to do the what you think is impossible. Write the story. Stand up on stage. Do the hard thing. Do the hard thing. That is something I would like to do next, is do some speaking engagements. I've done a few, but that's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for me, but you know what? I'm ready to take on that challenge too. So
I love
just jump
that.
in, do it.
I love it. Well, it has been my pleasure, Holly, having you come on. And if you love watching this, you want to connect with Holly, all of her information is going to be either below or to the side, wherever you're finding this, so that you can reach out to her. You can click on her social media links, connect with her, her website, etc. So thank you so much, Holly. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you ladies.
You're welcome.